So today I will be talking about the observation that I did in the classroom environment. So when I walked into the classroom, I was walking into a specialized academic instruction English class for 8th graders. When you first walked in, one of the strengths of the classroom is that it was very welcoming and inviting. When you first walked in, it was easy to walk through. There weren't a lot of things around, but in the classroom there were desks attached to the chairs, individual desks. And what the teacher had done is she had paired the desks into two. And when the students walked in, because it was a specialized academic instruction class, on the roster I think there were about 13 students. To my knowledge, there were at least 2 students with autism. The students came right in, and the strength was that they sat down and they started unpacking their bags. They put all of their classroom supplies on their other desk that was attached to their desk, or that was paired with their desk. So they sat on one desk and pulled out their folder and their journal and the things that they needed for that English class. One of the areas that was a challenge is these students did work on their Chromebooks. And as they worked on their Chromebooks, they, obviously needed to have a fully charged Chromebook. And a lot of them did not. So when that problem arose, there were no chargers in the center of the classroom. So all of a sudden, those who did not have a charged Chromebook were needing to change positions with another student. You could see frustration in some of the students' mannerisms as they had to give up their spot for somebody else to sit in it because they needed to charge their Chromebook. So that was something that could present a challenge for students who don't like change. Another positive thing about this environment is that when the students were asked to work in pairs, it was very easy for them to switch seats and sit next to somebody, sit next to a partner, because the desks were already set up that way. And the students seemed pretty used to having to do that. There were actually a couple of students who chose not to work with a partner, so they just stayed in their seats. It did seem like a routine that had been explained previously and that they do in this classroom. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to talk about is the schedules, transitions, and changes in schedule. So the teacher did write the agenda on the board, which allowed the students to know what they were doing as they walked in. Now, the teacher did not go over the agenda at the beginning of class, but would randomly point out things as she went. So, okay, we just did our journal. You guys look at the board. Now we're doing this. Okay. The students did not have to write down their agenda. They did not go over the agenda. So the students didn't really have the agenda in their mind, but they did because it seemed like it was a routine. I went into the classroom 2 days and it seemed to not vary that much. The students did their journal first, then they did some type of reading, and then they did some type of work, some type of worksheet or graphic organizer or something of that nature. Okay. The students did know about changes. Some students would talk to their teacher about changes. They would talk to their teacher about lunch, and the teacher seemed to be very straightforward and real with them about what could happen, what changes could happen at semester. The topic of an assembly did get brought up. The teacher made sure that the students were fully aware of what that would look like for them, what class they were going to the assembly with, and how everything would work. Some students did seem to be a little uneasy about it, so they continued to ask questions, but the teacher did a really good job of explaining things. With positive student interactions, acknowledging student efforts, and the awareness of student engagement, this teacher was very good at being aware of the student engagement levels. She knew exactly what students would not be as engaged as others, and so she would go and address those students right away, make sure that they were on task, and make sure that they knew what they were doing. Acknowledging student efforts. So this was a reading intervention class as well. So when the students passed a quiz on their reading intervention with a 70% or higher, they got to choose something from the prize box. So that was a acknowledgement of their efforts, but there really wasn't a lot of verbal acknowledgments of their efforts. Positive student interactions, for the most part, I mean, I saw positive student interactions. They were more, which was kind of the opposite, they were more verbal interactions rather than, I had read in the article for the week, rather than, high fives or things of that nature. There wasn't a lot of physical interactions. I think maybe one of the things that could make a more positive student interaction is to give the students positive interactions within their interests as well. It was very generic positive student interactions. And so I think if the teacher or the paraeducator was more specific to the student's interests, it would have been a more positive situation. Okay. Let's see here. So the aspects of the classroom that were appealing to me, the first ones were that the students, they really, really had a routine of where they were going and felt comfortable where they were going. They settled right into their seats. They loved having the double desks where there was a place for everything. One student, pulled out everything from his backpack and he was ready. He was set because everything was right there and in order. I really like that. I really like the thought of having the double desks together, giving somebody extra space to allow them to feel comfortable in their environment. What was not appealing was, and I'm not sure exactly how to fix this. Maybe there would be an actual charging station where the students, if they had to charge, they could go to the charging station as to not make another student move. But that was not very appealing. You could see how it had taken a toll on some of the students that had to move. My overall impression of the classroom learning environment, it was a good environment. Obviously, there were things that could be done at a better level, but I didn't have any of those first column responses. The teacher was pretty aware of what was going on in her classroom. She knew her students. Could she have known them better? Could she have interacted with them better? Yes, but she was doing a very good job of making a comfortable and safe environment for her students with disabilities. And those disabilities all varied. So, but I could say for my student that I was observing, she made a comfortable and safe learning environment and a welcoming learning environment for her student with autism.